Lando Norris just crossed the finish line as a world champion, but that title might be ripped away in the next few hours. The FIA has launched a full post-race investigation after uncovering irregularities in Norris McLaren during the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and they've confirmed the penalties could include disqualification. If Norris is sanctioned, he doesn't just lose the race. He loses the title. And Max Verstappen, who finished second, could be handed the 2025 World Championship off the track. This is the biggest post-race twist Formula One has seen in years. So smash that subscribe button right now, because we're about to break down everything the FIA just revealed, and what it means for the final standings. Lando Norris had just completed what looked like the defining moment of his career, a stunning win at the Yas Marina circuit to close the 2025 Formula One season. The garage erupted, fans celebrated around the world, and McLaren stood proud, believing they had finally unseated Red Bull in a straight fight. But just as the media frenzy began, a cold and clinical announcement arrived from the FIA's technical team. Post-race data from Norris' car had triggered a compliance review. This wasn't a random check. Multiple systems flagged concerns around Norris' MCL38, including irregular floor wear and anomalies in power deployment during critical stints of the Grand Prix. FIA officials confirmed that post-race findings require immediate regulatory review, a line that sent a wave of tension across the paddock. With the championship already declared, the idea that Norris' title might be stripped after the race had fans and teams alike frozen in disbelief. Sources close to the investigation claim the first issue identified involved floor plank wear, a component designed to ensure all cars maintain a minimum ride height throughout the race. Excessive wear suggests the car may have been running lower than allowed, gaining an aerodynamic advantage, particularly on a circuit like Abu Dhabi, where straight-line speed and corner entry stability are crucial. If the floor was below the legal thickness, the breach is automatic and cannot be appealed with intent or circumstance. But the situation deepened when telemetry data reportedly uncovered inconsistencies in the energy recovery system. Specifically, investigators found unusual spikes in hybrid power deployment during the final laps of the race, precisely when Norris was defending from Verstappen. Under the 2025 technical regulations, teams are obligated to submit fixed energy deployment maps before the race. If McLaren altered theirs mid-race intentionally or via error, that could violate Article 5.2.2, opening the door to a serious post-race penalty. McLaren's response was swift but measured. A spokesperson insisted the car remained within all declared limits and welcomed the FIA's review to bring full transparency to the matter. Still, internally, the team has placed communications and technical staff on alert. With the sport's governing body involved and the championship hanging in the balance, McLaren knows that intent won't matter, only data will. And as one engineer off the record put it, this isn't politics. It's numbers. While Norris has remained publicly silent, Red Bull is watching everything and saying very little. Verstappen's team is well aware that, depending on how the FIA rules, he could be elevated to race winner and champion by default. According to multiple paddock insiders, Red Bull has already submitted a formal request for clarification under Article 14.1, not a protest, but a legal maneuver that preserves their rights should the FIA find Norris in breach. What was meant to be the celebration of a new champion is now a full-blown compliance storm. The tension isn't just in McLaren's garage, it's across the entire paddock, as the FIA prepares to review data, radio communications, and potentially reclassify the race results. With the championship trophy already handed out, the FIA now faces the pressure of possibly rewriting history. And for Lando Norris, the dream of a maiden title may rest entirely on the integrity of car sensors and post-race measurements. The FIA's investigation into Lando Norris car centers on two distinct areas, both of which, if proven, could independently justify severe post-race penalties. The first concerns plank wear, a seemingly small detail with massive implications. Each F1 car is required to maintain a minimum ride height, and to enforce this, a wooden plank is mounted under the chassis. Its thickness is measured after the race, and any reduction beyond legal tolerance indicates the car was too low. Not only does this reduce drag and improve cornering speed, but it's also a black and white violation regardless of how or why it happened. In Norris' case, preliminary inspections reportedly showed the plank had worn more than the permitted limit in two critical areas, especially near the rear edge. Engineers argue that this may have occurred during aggressive curb strikes in sectors 2 and 3. However, FIA wear pattern analysis suggests the degradation began earlier in the race and was consistent, not random. That consistency is what raises suspicion. If wear starts too early and builds gradually, it's often because the car was set too low from the beginning. The second red flag comes from Norris' ERS deployment logs. The energy recovery system stores kinetic energy during braking and redeploys it as electric power. In this case, FIA telemetry shows that Norris' car may have delivered excess energy during 2 consecutive laps late in the Grand Prix. FIA Technical Directive 041 stipulates that once the energy deployment strategy is locked in before the race, it cannot be altered manually or automatically unless through approved failsafes. Deviations must be explained by driver input or system errors, neither of which McLaren has yet proven. If those hybrid deployment anomalies are deemed illegal, the implications could be far worse than just a reprimand. A breach of this nature, especially if it provided Norris with an on-track advantage during a title-deciding battle, could result in disqualification from the event, or at the very least, a time penalty large enough to demote him off the podium. The FIA's precedent is clear: when it comes to power deployment irregularities, they act decisively to protect the integrity of the sport. Adding further weight to the investigation is a short but controversial radio message between Norris and his race engineer around lap 54. The instruction, "hold delta, then push," is being analyzed for potential coded messaging, which is strictly forbidden when related to power unit control. Even if the wording appears innocent, the context and timing right before the energy deployment spike has caught the FIA's attention. If interpreted as an indirect command to activate an unapproved mode, this could become a third layer of infringement. McLaren's defense rests on 3 core arguments: that the floor wear was incidental and unavoidable, that the ERS output was within tolerances despite appearing abnormal, and that all radio communication was compliant with race directives. However, unlike a sporting foul, technical violations are not judged on intention-only outcome. If the car gained a measurable advantage due to any system or setup beyond what was declared pre-race, the FIA has little discretion under its own code. Historically, the FIA has shown no hesitation in acting post-race. Disqualifications have been handed out for worn planks, underweight cars, and powertrain inconsistencies, most recently in 2023, with both Mercedes and Aston Martin penalized for similar underfloor violations. For Norris, the timing could not be worse. The celebration may have already happened, but if either of these breaches are confirmed, he could lose not only the race win but the World Championship itself. Inside the McLaren garage, the atmosphere has flipped completely. What should have been a weekend of pure celebration has turned into a full-blown containment effort. The engineers, mechanics, and strategists who just hours ago were on top of the world are now working under enormous pressure, combing through data logs, technical sheets, and radio communications. The team knows that this isn't just a minor inquiry. The FIA is not treating this as a random audit. This is a targeted technical investigation, and every second counts. Lando Norris, fresh off what should have been the defining moment of his career, has vanished from public view. There are no interviews, no celebratory posts, no statements. His management team has placed him in complete media lockdown. That decision, while understandable, is also telling. Behind closed doors, Norris is reportedly trying to stay focused, but those around him describe his mood as deeply unsettled. After a flawless drive in Abu Dhabi, to now see that result under threat from regulatory action is a devastating emotional blow. Inside McLaren, tensions are beginning to mount. Some engineers argue that the car was pushed too aggressively in setup, with minimal ride height and energy output limits tuned right to the edge. Others believe external factors, like high-speed curb contact and track evolution, created the anomalies. But what's clear is that nobody is completely certain. And in Formula One, uncertainty is dangerous. Without a unified technical explanation, McLaren's defense is fragmented and the FIA won't wait for internal consensus. Meanwhile, Red Bull has gone completely silent. Max Verstappen hasn't commented. Christian Horner hasn't addressed the media. But make no mistake, they're watching closely. Red Bull doesn't need to protest or politicize this. If Norris is found in breach of regulations, Verstappen will automatically inherit the win, and more importantly, the World Championship. According to multiple paddock sources, Red Bull has already completed a legal audit of the FIA's process and is prepared to accept the decision whichever way it falls. This silence from Red Bull speaks volumes. Unlike in past seasons where controversy sparked verbal warfare, this time Verstappen's camp is in a position of strength. They don't need to fight. They need only wait. And if the FIA rules in their favor, Verstappen will clinch another title not with a pass on track, but by outlasting the storm from the sidelines. The mental composure and strategic patience from the Dutchman's team have become a silent but powerful presence in the background of this drama. Around the paddock, the mood is split. Some teams have expressed private frustration, believing that Norris may have gained an unfair advantage even if unintentionally. Others are backing McLaren, warning that post-race disqualifications set a dangerous precedent in the era of ultra-sensitive telemetry. But one thing unites the grid: no one is relaxed. The outcome of this investigation will ripple through every garage and into 2026, affecting how aggressively teams set up their cars and how the FIA enforces regulation boundaries. For fans, the emotional whiplash is immense. A title-deciding race, a maiden win for Norris, and then a possible reversal of everything not due to overtaking or strategy, but technical oversight. It's a brutal reminder that in Formula One, excellence isn't enough. You must be perfect. And as the FIA continues to analyze data and decide whether Norris keeps his crown or loses it all, the world of motorsport holds its breath. This isn't just a story. It's a reckoning.